most people think like an officer pulls his gun, shoots it, and then they go home and they eat dinner and act like nothing
Pizza
happened.
party.
Yeah, pizza party. That is the opposite of what happens.
Yes.
The moment an officer takes his gun out of his holster, pulls it out on somebody and pulls that trigger is a moment that now a whole slew of things activate. They are now considered to be a suspect in a crime, in a violent crime. Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the It's Needed Podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I'm joined today by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo. What's up, bro? There he is.
You woke me up from my nap.
I sure did.
Woke me up from my nap.
AJ forgot we was recording today.
I didn't. Whoa. All right. Since we putting that out there, we normally record on Sundays. Ryan, what is today?
Hey, bro. Hey.
What is today,
Sunday.
Ryan?
It's Sunday.
No, it's not Sunday. Chick-fil-A is open today, brother.
Every day's a Sunday, my brother. Every day's a Sunday.
What's going on with you?
Oh, man, I'm chilling, bro. I see that beard coming in. He's still on baby leave.
You see that gray?
Oh.
See that? There's a lot.
Ooh.
There's a lot of gray.
Nephew got that gray coming in.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray.
Man, and we are also joined by the savage himself. I almost called Billy the light skinned wonder himself too.
Real light.
He the white skinned wonder.
I am pretty pale.
The white skin.
We joined today by the white skinned wonder himself, the savage. What up, Billy?
Hey, so I'm also doing a no shave quarantine, but my beard does not come in like AJ's.
Oh,
nasty.
I forgot. We got to post that picture. Hey, Billy's beard does not connect in the middle. Like, even his mustache, like,
there's no beard.
Like, you know, look, the bridge in the nose, like, it just goes down in between, like, the little upper lip crease, and there's no hair, and it just goes, he ain't got no hair.
Hey, what was the picture I sent? That was it Joe Dirt?
Yes. Yes. Hey, I was cracking up on the couch, like texting y'all back and forth.
Oh man, as you guys can see, the three of us go back and forth with something. We always have something every day or whatever that's just either a fair or foul. Or matter of fact, let's start off. So Billy shot me a text message, or both of us a text message yesterday from one of our followers, I think on our group. And shout out to everybody that's on our Facebook private group.
Definitely.
But what was it? They posted a picture. It was a Google search, and in the Google search, I think it said bootleg internet, and they basically photoshopped all these photos of me that came.
It was Photoshop. It was not Photoshop.
No, that's Photoshop, bro.
Google bootleg internet and pictures of Ryan just popped.
No, that ain't true.
It was real.
But shout out to whoever did that. Who was that, Billy, that did that?
I'd have to check the group right now.
Ryan is the only dude I know that got prepaid internet.
Oh man,
how that worked.
I got that Obama internet, bro.
It was Joe.
Got prepaid
Joe 10.
internet.
Oh man, bro. I was like, seriously, so y'all just gonna play me like that?
Who was it, Billy?
Joe Tim.
Joe. Shout out to Joe.
And shout out to my boy Terrence, because Terrence listens to the podcast too. So yeah. Terrence, he shot me a picture of AJ the other day when AJ posted a picture from a throwback. And it was my man from the Goofy movie.
We need to post that.
Yeah,
that was funny.
Yes, bro.
That was funny. Like, that made me laugh.
Oh man, shout out to Terrence, man, because I was cracking up. So keep that stuff coming, guys. If you guys got jokes, whatever it is, keep it coming, because that makes my day. It makes one of our days. And so yeah, shout out to you guys for following. We are over 100 followers now in the private group. So if you're not on that private group, you are missing out. And I know we have way more than 100 followers that listen to this podcast, because we just hit another milestone with downloads and monthly downloads yesterday. So, and it's up there. So I know we have way more than 100 people that listen to this podcast. So if you're out there,
we're watching.
Yeah, we are watching. Please join that Facebook private group, because it's fun. It's entertaining. So I think I did a live yesterday. AJ, you did a live yesterday too, right?
I did a video just thanking everybody for the milestone we hit on there. And then I spent probably an hour and a half, 2 hours just on my computer downstairs talking to people, like just chatting them up, getting to know them and whatnot. So it's a fun group. It is a fun group.
And I usually I'll be in there more. Somebody's got work over here. So, I've been working. I've been working the slave ship.
Hey.
So, hey, you know what I'm talking about? So anyways, man, well, hey guys, it's a pleasure to be back. I will tell you, man, that doing this weekly podcast has been phenomenal. I love doing it. It does take a level of sacrifice. I walked out the house today and my wife just gave me that stare like, hey, so you leaving already, huh? Because, when you have 3 kids in the house on quarantine, it is not easy, trust me. And then yesterday was my Monday back to work, and so she just gave me that look. So just know that Mrs. Tillman is sacrificing so that way we can bring this podcast to you guys on a weekly basis. And I'm sure Mrs. Stuckman and Mrs. Johnson are doing the same.
Bruh, I got the stare when I woke up from my nap. I literally had a little man wrapped up in my arms. I was dozing off on the couch. Shelby was on like a conference call for work or for school. And I looked at my text message. I was like, I got to go downstairs, babe. And she just like looked at me like, I started twitching. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll make it up later, babe.
I'll try to make it quick.
I'll cook, I'll clean, and all that later.
I'm trying to tell Ryan to keep his rambling to a minimum today, babe.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we do it for you guys. And the only reason we do it, guys, is because our downloads continue to go up. Like, if our downloads weren't going up, I'm sure we wouldn't be, trying to do this every week. And you got to realize, like, the consistency level. So, this is just a lesson in life in general is that, we all have great ideas. We all want to be successful and things like that. But, success isn't really built around knowledge. Success is built more around consistency. You know what I mean? We can have all the knowledge in the world. We can have all the great ideas in the world. But if you're not consistent with it, you're not going to see any type of success. And so that's one of the lessons I've learned recently. And I think one of the major successes that we've had with BBU and the podcast and all this stuff is just consistency. I'll be the first to tell you, our content isn't always on par. Like, there's sometimes we'll put out content. I'm like, man, that wasn't the best. Or sometimes we'll have a podcast and like, oh man, we could probably did a better one. And it's not necessarily we're going to lose off of that podcast. We're going to win in the long run just based on our consistency. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. And not only that, but like back in the day growing up, where I grew up and how I grew up, there was a term people would use to tell the difference between people who talk and people who are like really about that action. And the phrase was trigger pullers, right? So the trigger pullers are the ones who they're not doing any talking. They're the ones out there doing what other people are talking about. And another key part to that success is like you have to pull the trigger. Like, how many great ideas have you had and you haven't pulled the trigger? Or you kind of like look away and pull the trigger. You miss the whole target, right?
Exactly.
Like you have to focus on the sights, focus on the target, and pull the trigger. And I'll never forget when I first met you, Ryan, and I'm sure you remember this like it was yesterday because I know I do. At that conference, after the conference, we went to a different location, and I think you had we were just chopping it up. Like we were chopping it up back and forth like it was nothing, right? Like we knew each other forever. And then you were like, man, we need a podcast. And I was like, say less, like let's do it. and I immediately knew like, okay, like this ain't just a talk, right? Like this is going to come into fruition because I can already tell you were a trigger puller. I already know I'm a trigger puller, and we just did it. And look at the fruits that we now bear, right?
Bro, I think it was the next week when I got back, I called you and said, hey, let's move on it. Like, hey, this wasn't just conversation. This is
right.
It is what it is. So so let's do it. And speaking of pulling triggers, I've been kind of hesitant, wasn't sure whether or not we were going to move forward on this. And this might be news to Billy too. I talked to AJ about it briefly. This is an unofficial announcement, but it sounds like we will be bringing the It's Needed podcast back this year, November 6th.
Not podcast.
Or no, the It's Needed conference. My bad. It's Needed conference will be coming back again this year, November 6th, unofficially. So
yes, sir.
That's the unofficial date. It's pretty set in stone. The only thing that might change that is one of our keynote speakers, Gordon Graham. I talked to him yesterday. He's willing to come out and speak again. However, I think he might have a speaking engagement. So I may adjust the date just based on him because he is very valuable to adjust the whole conference date for. So him, and I also talked to ET again unofficially, and he's also committed to being there again this year. So if you guys missed the last one, you guys don't want to miss this year. Sounds like you're going to be in the same location, so the Riverside Convention Center. And so we will start getting more stuff out. If you're interested or you know somebody that might be a good breakout speaker or whatever it may be, shoot us a DM, reach out to us on the private group, let us know so we can reach out to them. But yeah, it's phenomenal. This is a huge announcement for us to come back and do it again, a back-to-back, especially with the success of last year's conference. So I'm excited.
Bigger and better.
Excited. Oh,
bigger and better. bigger and better.
Way. Yep.
And what my boy Ryan was saying, like, he's not just saying it to hype it up. Like, he's saying it because he's seen what happened firsthand there. Like, if you were not there last year, like, you have to be there this year. There were so many times where I either seen something or heard something, and I had to take a step back myself and go, wow, that's powerful. At one point, we're all on lunch break. Like people are out, not lunch break, breakout sessions. Everyone's in like different rooms. I'm prepping for like the next little thing I'm going to do. Ryan is out doing his thing. And I end up walking in the main auditorium and I see a police officer in full uniform praying with a young African-American male who was incarcerated at one point in his life. And I had to take a step back and go, wow, that's powerful right there. So that's the type of stuff we talking about.
Man, we had Jorge there. Jorge was, had the room filled with tears in his story. Yep. And like AJ said, I'm not just saying that to say it was a good conference. Like, we've all been in those situations where somebody does like something new or like a new event or whatever it may be, and they hype it up, hype it up, and then you show up and there's like 10 people there, and you like, wow, like, man, man, like I came to support you, bro, but this was an utter failure. That was not the case for the Is Needed conference. Like, literally, when I tell you, people walked out of there, police chiefs, mayors, city managers, you name it, and they would have thought we put on about 10 conferences. And so that was just a testament to the Lord's work. When the Lord has a will, he will make a way for it. And so, and that kind of leads me into just briefly talking about the whole coronavirus thing, man. Like, we were just talking about before we got on today, man, just the situation. I think unemployment rates are at an all-time high. I think it's like 3 million people or filing for unemployment. I read an article today about the housing market is coming down, stocks are going down, and people don't know how long it's going to last. And so, I just offer you encouragement. The Lord has a way of getting everybody's attention. Let me tell you something, like, if you don't believe in God, like, right now is a time that you need to like at least get curious about God, because, and the reason I say that is because, think about it. We are experiencing something that none of us have ever experienced in the history, of my lifetime or my parents' lifetime is, the whole globally, distractions have been removed from our life. Like, literally all distractions.
Yep.
Gyms, workouts, movie theaters, entertainment, sports, everything. And the other thing is, it's not like normal people are just being affected by it. Like, what we would classify as normal people. Celebrities are being affected by it. Like, celebrities are being essentially brought down to our level.
And dying.
Yeah, because if you think about it, not only they're dying, but they don't have money coming in. Yeah, they might be sitting on, a whole bunch of money in the bank or whatever if they plan right. But think about it. If entertainment is canceled, they not making no money right now.
Right.
So, like, in a sense, like, it's almost an equal playing field from the standpoint of just being, citizens in our community. And I know people might argue that fact and say, well, I got $0 in the bank and they got $1 million in the bank. Like my man that had the negative comment last week about I stole his cell phone or whatever. But,
I'm in this broke down house with a stolen cell phone.
Exactly. But if you look at it from just like, just looking at it from outwardly looking in, it's just like, man, we're all in similar boats, man. Nobody is immune to this coronavirus. So
that's very true. That's very true. And I think we're starting to see slowly but surely rays of light during this storm. I can't look out my window, my house window. I can't look out and not see somebody jogging, walking a dog, going for a walk at any time during the day. If there's sunlight, people are out walking, jogging. You don't normally see that.
No.
You go to any of the parks, they're packed. People jogging, just walking around. But the crazy part is the parks, at least here, are like roped off with like crime scene tape.
Same here.
So the only thing that is available are fields and like the paths. But I mean, you see people riding their bikes, and it's just it's refreshing.
Oh,
because
it's
for
super
me,
refreshing.
Growing up, like, that's what we did, right? Like, I was born in the late 80s, really spent most of my life or my early years in the early 90s. So that's what we did. Like, we rode our bikes to a friend's house. Then we rode all of our bikes to somebody else's house and went to a park and played basketball. And it seems like we're getting brought back to those times, or at least we're just going back to those times to bring rays of light.
Well,
to the world
it's
during the
funny. So
storm.
yesterday before I went to work, I took my son and my nephew. We went out to we have like a little grass area right across the street from our house, and you know, they made like, you know how kids are, bro. We went the first time, and then they wanted to just ride. My son had his bike, and my nephew had the scooter, so they ride around. Then they get bored real quick. They say, "Hey, can we go back to the house and we want to get our Nerf guns?" So then we go back and we get the Nerf guns. And then they go back and we want some water. So we go back and get some water. But as we go in for the last time, I just in the interim as we were going back between one of the different times, I just saw the bike and the scooter just in the driveway. Just we left it there, and it just reminded me of how we would leave bikes and scooters in the driveway of our friend's house when we went inside to go play or something like that. So it is refreshing, man, to just walk around the neighborhood. I took my baby girl on a little stroll around the neighborhood the other day, and just seeing people out, and they have to get creative. That's the funny thing, is people are having to get creative with working out again. And so, you know, it's funny just seeing people that you would normally see in 24-hour fitness or LA Fitness out jogging on the street or doing workouts on the street, because you have to get creative because you don't got the gym equipment anymore. So it's refreshing in a sense, for sure. And so we got a long uphill battle, but yet, you know, I want people to still stay encouraged and everything like that. So how you guys been holding up on quarantine, Billy?
We're doing okay. So just spending a lot more time with Jacob and Bianca, man. And it's really strengthening our faith for sure, because I do event videography and all events are canceled. And then yesterday, Trump extended April 19th, April 30th. But we have a lot of peace about it. And I'm open for whatever he has planned for us, you know. So we're doing okay. Yeah.
Well, I've said this Bible verse before, and I'll say it again. But Philippians 4:6 talks about, be anxious for nothing, but through all things, with through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests be made known to God, and He'll give you this a peace that surpasses all understanding. That's the Bible verse I've been living by. My sister, coronavirus has actually hit me on a personal level. I don't know if I shared this with you guys yet, but my sister's mother-in-law actually came down with coronavirus locally, and I would say she's probably in her early to mid 60s, and not only that, but she suffers from diabetes. So when she went into the hospital, she had a fever, she was having trouble breathing. They said if they couldn't bring the fever down, they were actually gonna have to put her in induced coma, and so luckily they were able to bring, as of yesterday, the update yesterday was they were able to bring the fever down, so they were moving her to a room. I haven't got the update today, but it's starting to hit closer to home for me, as I'm sure it's going to start hitting closer to home with all of us. There will come a point in time where every single one of us will at least know somebody that is just directly impacted by this virus. So
yeah, absolutely. Our the department that I work for here in Central Ohio just announced that we had our first confirmed case. So one of my coworkers officially has it. So, you know, definitely prayers out to them and everybody else. But it's here. And we have to take it serious. You know, there's a lot of people who, you know, want to still go out and do things with other people. Like, oh, well, I'll just hang out with my best friend. Well, you got to realize that your best friend might be hanging out with their other best friend. And like, that's how it spreads. Like this is a time where we have a stay-at-home order and a quarantine order for a reason. Like the parks are roped off for a reason. Like we just have to listen, like despite how hard it is. Like I get it. Like we have a newborn at the house. Like we want family over, and we want to take him to see his grandparents and his cousins and his aunts and uncles who he's never met yet. But we don't want to risk it. We don't want to risk spreading it. We don't want to risk getting people sick or ultimately, you know, someone dying from this. It's real.
And find ways to encourage one another. So, you know, I kind of look at last week was the first full week of that phase where, you know, hey, everybody got to stay at home, and it was kind of novel. It was kind of unique. Everybody, you know, was having fun with it, doing home workouts and stuff like that, because it wasn't really that real. But as we move into these next few weeks, this is when it's going to get tough, because we're through that honeymoon phase, if I might say, of where, you know, being at home. Like the first week it was cool because I got like an unexpected vacation. I got an unexpected vacation from school, from work. You know, it was cool because we get to hang out with family. I will tell you, at work, you know, we've seen an increase in domestic violence calls. Like people are going to start getting tired of each other. So the next few weeks is going to get hard, but these are those times that we need to find ways to encourage each other. So continue to do what you do. if you are on social media, it's times like this that we can utilize technology to encourage people and give people little words of hope.
And speaking of, if you are going to use social media as a platform, like use it to either spread awareness or to spread hope. Like if you're on there spreading negativity or spewing poison, like you're wasting your time. And I say that for a reason. Lil Boosie has been on the internet talking about the coronavirus. Have you heard about this?
No, I have not, but I'm ready.
Lil Boozy?
Lil Boosie.
Yeah.
And right, you hear Billy like Lil Boosie?
Lil Boosie?
And the crazy part is he has a very large following of people who, look up to him, idolize him, follow him on social media and whatnot. And I'm going to just play a small clip of the type of stuff that he's saying on his social media platform about coronavirus.
China just met with the U.S. They finna give everybody who got the corona $4,000 for the rest of their life every month. All you broke better get the corona. I'm telling you now. I'm trying to catch you.
So he on here
Where did he learn that?
talking about he made it up. I don't know. I don't know if somebody told him that. If he just made it up, or if he's trying to gain followers or gain attention or whatnot. But the sad reality of it is I guarantee I would put my life savings on it that there was at least one person who watched that video and believed that if he or she caught the coronavirus, that they would get $4,000 a week or a month for the rest of their life. And they were out there trying to catch it. I said the last podcast that there was a coronavirus challenge where people are hashtagging these videos of them going out, licking door handles, subway handles, whatever, grocery stores, carts, door handles, whatever. They're licking at stuff and they're calling it the coronavirus challenge. Now, guess what? Somebody got extremely ill who did the coronavirus challenge. Like, this is not a game. Like, this ain't nothing to play with. Like, you think the president of the United States would put us on a national lockdown for nothing?
No, not at all.
For nothing?
No, not
I'm talking
at all.
In political views aside, let's talk about financially, right? Because we all know, it's my belief at least, that there hasn't been somebody in that seat that hasn't looked at the financial reason behind pretty much everything they do. So we'll talk about the financial reason behind it. Do you think that the president of the United States will make a decision that would make the country lose so much money for no reason? No.
I know. It's
No, like, this
it's
is
crazy.
real.
Well, and the flip side of that too, I was just talking to somebody yesterday, is that, they're going to be sending out these stimulus checks, which are cool. You know what I mean? And, it's cool because, people are going to be able to get some money, especially people like in situations like Billy with the weddings and stuff. Like, people could really use it. Here's the thing though, is that I don't want these stimulus checks to cripple people. And this is what I mean. Don't get that stimulus check and think like, oh, you know what? See, the government can give me free money every single month. Because the reality of it is there's going to be people that get those checks and be like, see, this is proof that the government can give me money every single month. And they're going to let it cripple them. And it's going to be their level of expectation, as opposed to receiving that money and saying, okay, cool. How can I, use this to pay my bills or do whatever I need to do to get me into the next month so that way I can get back on my feet? Like, don't let this money that we're going to get fool you. Don't let it fool you to think that, okay, now the government's going to take care of me for the rest of my life. And the other thing to that is that you got to realize, like, that money's coming from somewhere. Like, it's got to come from somewhere. It's $2 trillion.
Trillion with a T.
$2 trillion. So think about it. This is they're talking about giving you one check. At least all I know right now, that's one check. So that one check you're getting is coming out of $2 trillion. Imagine how much money they would have to fork up in order to give you that on a monthly basis. Social Security is already running out. Like, for us at our age, they've been saying forever that don't plan on getting Social Security when we become retirement age. And so don't let you getting this money fool you into thinking that the government can now assist me, and they've proven to me that they can assist me and provide money for me every single month without me having to work hard. No, use that money as a resource, but don't use it as something that's going to sustain you or have that mindset that the government will sustain me for the rest of my life.
Yep, absolutely. And just to, this would be the last negative. I don't even say negative. This would be the last. I don't know. I'll open up a little bit. So a couple years ago, my mother was forced to leave her job. It's a long story. We got an attorney, and we pretty much rectified the situation as well as we could. But because of that situation, she has been forced to like live off of like a small portion of her retirement, like a small portion of what she would have got if she would have made it to the number she needed to.
Yeah.
So she got like a small percentage of that. And it's been okay, right? Because one, we come from a positive mindset where we're going to be all right? Like we're all believers in this family for the most part. I know she is, myself, I am. So, we're going to be all right. But the second thing is like, I'm not about to let my mom go hungry. Like, we're going to eat, right? So I got this, mama. Like, don't worry. So fast forward to the coronavirus, I got a call from my mother 2 days ago. And I'm just talking to her, chatting it up. I'm FaceTiming her so she can see the little one because she doesn't get to see her grandchild because of this, right? And she goes, hey, she's like, I just want to let you know I checked on my retirement stuff. And I go, oh, snap. Like, I didn't even think about this. Like, there's so much going on. I didn't even think about this. And I go, how bad is it? She's like, it's pretty bad. I go, well, how bad? And she goes, they've already lost about 70% of like everything that I have.
What?
70% already.
Was it invested in something or?
Yeah, because well, you got to figure like retirement, like even my mom, all of us, and right now the people so this is the other side of it is like not only is the coronavirus affecting people from a health standpoint that are older, but those same people that are around retirement age. Like for us, we're in a good position from the standpoint of we have time.
We can wait.
Like
for
the market will come back.
Yeah.
But those that were planning on retiring within the next 1, 2, 3, or 4 years, people are losing thousands and thousands of dollars that they were planning on retirement for. So not only is their health compromised, but their finances are compromised.
Right. Literally every aspect of their life. I mean, and we say this not to harp on whoever or whatever and not to be negative. Like, we say this with the message of like, please take this serious. Like we both just opened up and let you know that we have loved ones who have been affected by this. Like, please take this serious. Like, people are losing their lives. People are losing their jobs. Like, people are losing their retirements, their loved ones, like you name it. Like, take this serious. If you've never taken anything serious in your life, like, this is the time to start.
Yep, exactly.
This is the time to start.
Don't wait for nobody, man. So, hey, my bad for, getting off on some tangent. I think it's good conversation, though. But do me a favor, AJ, go into the officer down real quick, and then I want to get into today's topic.
Absolutely. So the last time we recorded a podcast was on the 23rd, and we came in at 27. As of today, which is March 30th, we're coming in at 31. As always, we want to recognize those heroes who lost their lives, doing what they do every single day, which is protecting us. We actually lost 3 troopers and a commander. So the first is Trooper Justin Schaefer of the Washington State Patrol. His end of watch was March 24th due to a vehicular pursuit. The second is Trooper Nolan Sanders from the North Carolina Highway Patrol. His end of watch was March 27th due to an auto crash. Then we lost Sergeant Ben Jenkins of the Nevada Highway Patrol. His end of watch was March 27th due to gunfire. And then we lost a Commander Greg Carnicle, sorry about that, from the Phoenix PD police department out in Arizona. His end of watch was March 29th, 20th due to gunfire. And I know a lot of police officers were shot out of that incident. I don't know, did you see that in the news?
Yeah, that was yesterday where they responded to a domestic violence situation, and as they're there, somebody started opening fire. Multiple people were hit, and that commander, I think he was on the force for 29 years, and he survived by a wife and 4 kids. Ended up being killed. And that's the crazy thing. So not only do we got to worry about, medical issues. I mean, I went on a call last week for a suicidal subject who had slit his wrist. And when we got there, it looked like it looked like a crime scene. Like there was blood everywhere and stuff like that. And, not only do we have to help this individual, but yet think about it. We got to get up close and personal with these people. And then yesterday we had, 4 individuals in our city, get caught up doing multiple residential burglaries. We ended up catching all of them, but one of them we found in the trash can hiding, and, I got to go put hands on with these people. And so it's just one of those things, like we're put in positions where not only do we have to, sacrifice ourselves from a medical standpoint and health standpoint with this coronavirus stuff, but yet you still got to watch your six because, like I said, domestic violences have been going up just because people are getting tired of each other. And so, man, our prayers go out to the families that are for all those that were affected by those.
Always.
So let's transition, guys. Let's move right into the topic today. One of the things I wanted to discuss today was internal stresses that we face as police officers in this profession, as well as, discipline when it comes to police officers. So quite often I get, and AJ, tell me if you're different, but one of the things I get all the time is that, is not necessarily the fact that we don't recognize there's good police officers out there, but it's more the fact that, bad police officers are either not called out, or B, bad police officers are not punished for the bad that they're doing. And so I think there's some type of misinformation or lack of knowledge when it comes to this area. And this is only information that I've seen since I've been into the profession. Now, I'm going to lead with this statement and tell you that as I've been in the profession, I do know of cases where officers either were not, punished like they should have been, were not fired like they should have been, or didn't receive the sentence that they should have gotten if they, were in a deadly force or a critical use of force. So that does exist, but it doesn't exist to the scale that we are led to believe. I think we're led to believe that there's so much police corruption going on within police departments that officers aren't getting punished like as much as they should, but that's not the reality of it. And so the reason I brought up, internal stresses of the job is because they kind of go hand in hand. And this is what I mean. As police officers, there's a lot of other things that we are required to do and responsible to do outside of just our normal handling our calls for service and responding to, doing traffic stops or whatever it may be. For example, like at my department, we have body cameras, and body cameras, like I said, we've had body camera talks before. And and this was one of the areas that AJ and I kind of disagreed on a little bit, but I personally like body cameras because it's helped me in many different situations. Although I do understand where AJ's point of view is that he believes that, with the implementation of body cameras, that people now assume that if it's not captured on tape, it didn't happen type thing. So I understand that argument as well. The thing about body cameras though is that you got to realize that all of those videos that we record, they get uploaded to a cloud, and that cloud costs money. It costs money to store things in the cloud. And so what we are required to do as officers is that after every single call, we have to categorize our videos. And the reason we categorize them is so that way we know what type of call it is. Is this a call that's going to get purged, or is this a call that has to stay for a while? Some of the other things that we're responsible for doing is we have to activate our cameras. Now, you may ask the question, you may say, well, that's easy to activate a camera when you're going to a call. But yeah, it may sound easy, but how difficult is it to activate a camera when something is rapidly evolving, i.e. a police pursuit? I was involved in a police pursuit a while back, and I failed to activate my camera. Now, it wasn't because I did it deliberately. It was more so for the simple fact of that happened so quickly that I was going through an intersection and realized that I was in a police pursuit. So now I have to worry about calling this police pursuit out over the radio. I have to worry about making sure whether or not we need to continue this pursuit or cancel the pursuit. And it slipped my mind to activate my camera. So that, and the reason I bring that up is because that is grounds for punishment. If you don't activate your camera, you can get in trouble for it. If you don't categorize your videos, you can get in trouble for it. We also have things that we're responsible for doing, which is policy updates. And so we get police policy updates every single month, sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, you name it. But we get updates. And the reason we get updates is because case laws are always changing surrounding law enforcement encounters. And therefore, what we have to do is we have to acknowledge and go on there and read the policies to make sure we acknowledge those policies. If we don't acknowledge those policies, you can be punished for it. If I go down the list, there are other things that we're responsible for doing. Checking out our unit, making sure that when we go, before we start our shift, our unit doesn't have any damage. If there is damage, then we have to report it. If we don't report it and it's found later, then we can be on the hook for it. I can go down the list of all these different things that are not even directly involved with human interaction outside of the police station that I'm responsible for doing. And why do I bring that up is because those are stresses that lead to an officer. And if you talk to majority of police officers, most officers will tell you that they feel like there is more stress that comes internally than there is externally that are out there on the street. And correct me if I'm wrong on that, AJ. And so 100%. Why is that so important? Well, the reason it's important is because a lot of times people are saying, well, officers aren't getting in trouble. They rarely get in trouble for different things. Well, it's actually quite the contrary. officers are getting in trouble for things
Everything.
every single day.
Yep.
I'm gonna let Billy share a story with somebody right now about we talked about it before we got on the podcast about cussing. Tell me about that situation that you had heard of as far as a friend of yours or whatever it was that you were saying.
Yeah, it was a family friend. They came from a large department here in Southern California, and they just recently moved to Texas, where it's a very small town. Probably one of those towns where you guys talk about where it's like a 20 minutes till your responding officer gets there. So at the large city he was at, he was used to being able to interact with someone more aggressively. So he was in Texas he at his new patrol, and he found a needle in the pocket. And I guess, you guys worry about other needles poking yourself. So he's like, is there any other needles? Like, he's raising his voice, dropped some swear words, which I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that, but which he was just kind of used to. And he got written up for that. So he just not used to the whole, like, the culture is kind of way different with a smaller thing or with a smaller department. But yeah, he got written up for swearing.
Yeah. So go ahead. And AJ, go ahead, AJ.
I want everybody to think about that for a second. I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a police officer, and we'll set the scenario for you, okay? You respond to a gun run, okay? You show up. There's a big crowd of people. They're fighting. You see the person who is described to a T to have the gun. You see him in an altercation. As you're pulling up, you see him pull the gun out. He sees you. He puts the gun back in his waist, takes off running. You're chasing him, okay? You're chasing him. You tackle him, all right? Now, in your mind, you're like, I can't let this guy get to the gun that's in his pants. I have to stop him because if he gets to it, he could kill me, right? Or he could kill somebody else. You cussing him, put the effing gun down. Don't you effing do it. Whatever your choice of words is, you get the gun, everybody's safe. You go back to the apartment, your body camera's reviewed, you get in trouble. Do you think that's right? Because, I'll be the first to admit, look, I come from the inner city. I was born and raised in the inner city. I work in the inner city. Every single job that I've had has been in the inner city, and that's for a reason. That's where I'm comfortable. But I understand that there's a certain group of people that respond to certain language different than others, right? Like, I know I could go to a certain area where I work and tell somebody, hey, do that again, that's going to be a problem. And that's going to resonate with them. They're going to go, oh, he's serious. I can't go to another area and say that because they'll be offended, right? Like, I get you have to understand your audience, but you also have to understand, like, I know who I'm talking to and I know what's going to resonate. So if I could use my words and tell him, hey, put the effing gun down or, whatever, and he puts the gun down and that stops me from having to shoot him or stops me from having to put my hands on him, then so be it. But officers are getting in trouble left and right for that. And I always found it was ironic before I got on the police force. That was the narrative. The narrative was police officers never get in trouble. They get to do what they want. They blow through red lights and all this, right? And I'm like, man, this is crazy. Until I became a police officer. And if you talk to any police officer, they will tell you one of their main fears is being fired or getting in trouble. That's a thing. If you find a dollar bill in any police substation, what's the cop going to say? That's an IA plant. That's an IA plant. I ain't picking that up.
Yep.
They ain't about to get me fired.
Yep.
Like, that's nationwide. I know cops all over the world, really. That's worldwide. Cops are afraid of getting in trouble. And it's ironic that police officers who are actually in the thick of it, that's their mindset. But everybody else seems like, oh, they don't get in trouble.
And here's the other side of it. Because I remember doing a debrief from the Phoenix one where the officers were cussing those people out. And it kind of goes back to knowing your audience. So sometimes as officers, we also have to know our audience, like AJ was saying. And there's a time and place that, if we cuss, I can understand it on certain situations. But sometimes as officers, we choose to cuss in the scenario where you should not cuss at all. You know what I mean? And so we're sometimes our worst enemies. But I want you guys to understand something is that the humanistic side of this job, like, sometimes people forget that police officers are human beings. Like, we'll get into a situation and you will react as any human being. Like, think about a situation where it's, like AJ says, something rapidly evolving, but let's remove police work from it. Let's just say you're out in the neighborhood, somebody comes, somebody points a gun at you, or somebody, socks or punch you in the face, or somebody calls you out a name. How are you going to respond? If we're honest with ourselves, how are you going to respond? So let's move forward, and now let's throw the police work into it.
Right.
You're in similar situations as the police officer. Yeah, we're held to a higher standard. Yeah, we should react a certain way. But to say that we're going to react that way every single time, it's almost impossible to say because we're still human beings. And that's the purpose of Breaking Barriers United, is to remind people that police officers are human beings. So the reason I brought up all those examples, the cussing, the categorizing videos, the staying up to date on policies, these are all things that are getting police officers in trouble left and right. Now, I do want to say this, is that every single one of those things has a purpose. They all have a purpose. I'm not here to say, I'm not sitting here to say like, hey, all those things need to go out the window, because they don't. Like, they're there for a reason. They're there to keep officers out of trouble in the grand scheme of things. Like if, we get sued for something, or if I'm out of policy for using force, those are things things that are guards in place to prevent law enforcement agencies from getting sued. If a law enforcement agency gets sued, then where does that money come from? Well, it comes from the city. If it comes from the city, who else is affected by that? It's like a domino effect. And so you got to realize that all these things that are put in place for officers that get officers in trouble, they're there for a reason, and they're not going anywhere. But I want to highlight the fact of these are stressors that inhibit to officers stresses while they're on duty and when they're off duty, because there's things. How many times have you gone home, AJ, and worried about something while you're off of work that you got to do when you go back to work, or if you don't get done, you're going to get in trouble for it?
Oh my goodness, man. Countless.
Or that email you get, and it's like, you see email and it's like, oh shoot, hey, you forgot to do this. Or the mere fact you're on patrol working and you get hit up on the radio, hey, I need you to report to the sergeant's office or the watch commander's. And that whole way there, that whole drive there, bro, it feels like you're driving home, or it feels like your dad picked you up from school, and the teacher told your dad like, hey, Ryan's been acting up today. And you're on that ride home, you know what it's going to be when you get home. But that's what officers are facing on a daily basis. And so let's move forward even a little bit more, and let's talk about when we utilize force on people and the worry that officers go through of whether or not they're going to get in trouble or not.
Especially in today's age.
I recently told you guys I was involved in a critical incident. And again, I can't tell you guys what the situation is because, by policy, I can't talk about it, the specific situation, or again, I can get in trouble for it. But what I will tell you, though, is I can give you hypotheticals of just learning about the process. So if an officer utilizes deadly force on somebody, the moment they utilize deadly force, they are now considered to be a suspect in a crime.
Yeah.
In a violent crime.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So it's funny, like, most people think like an officer pulls his gun, shoots it, and then they go home and they eat dinner and act like nothing
Pizza
happened.
party.
Yeah, pizza party. That is the opposite of what happens.
Yes.
The moment an officer takes his gun out of his holster, pulls it out on somebody, and pulls that trigger is the moment that now a whole slew of things activate. And what activates, not only is he a suspect in a violent crime against a person, not only does that officer now need an attorney, not only does an internal investigation open up, not only is there a possible criminal investigation that's going to open up, not only is there a civil investigation that's going to open up, there's a whole slew of things that are going to open up against this officer that are not going to go away in, 30 days. They're not going to go away in 2 months. These are things that won't go away for a year to 2 years, sometime 5 years. If not more.
Personal experience, years.
So when people tell me that officers aren't getting in trouble or officers are getting let off, no, officers are getting in trouble for what they're doing. Officers are getting punished for what they're doing. You just don't hear about it. And why do you think you don't hear about it? Because that's not popular at that point in time. Like, it's already been 3 years since the incident happened. Everybody's forgotten about that whole situation. So when an officer does get that punishment, when an officer does get fired, when an officer does go to jail, you're not going to really hear about it because the dust has since settled. I can go down case by case. There were officers that were arrested for raping some people. They went to jail for it. There were officers that were arrested for, doing things on duty that they shouldn't be doing. They were arrested for it. But those investigations took long, just like it would for any other civilian. You just won't hear about it because it happens way after the fact. So we got to get off of this thing and stop saying that officers aren't punished or officers aren't called out. No, I can tell you now that police departments are going above and beyond to get rid of these so-called bad apples out there. We just don't hear about it because it's not as popular. The only way we'll hear about it is if it's a high-profile case. That's the only way we'll hear about it.
That's it.
Sorry, go ahead, Adrian.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, brother.
I want to hear what you had to say real quick.
Do you think there's a way, and would it be good is there a way for departments to speed up that process? So let's say while that iron is hot, like while it's the hot topic, oh, but look, like the officer was actually good and here's why they let him off the hook. Or same thing if they're bad, like something bad happens and it's on the media and like, okay, yeah, look at our punishment. We took care of it. Like, wouldn't that be helpful to you guys if they sped up the process?
I don't think so, because here's why. Do we speed up a regular civilian's trial? If anything, sometimes we drag them out, right? A lot of times we'll drag it out because, or the defendant, the person that's on the hook for it, they're going to drag it out because they got to get as much evidence to defend them or whatever it may be. So on the surface level, it sounds good, but on the flip side of it, it's like they got to dot all their I's, cross all their T's on both sides of the spectrum. If you're in the right or if you're in the wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like, as somebody that's been involved in a use of force that, you know, raised the stakes to what I was just mentioning, it sucks because I know the process is long, but at the same time, I would want the process to be thorough. If we start speeding stuff up, then I's aren't going to get dotted, T's aren't going to get crossed. People are going to want to crucify you. And we've seen what happens. There are departments that have gone out there and they've crucified an officer overnight and then later come back and said, you know what, actually the officer's actions were right. But when that happens, that officer's career is now tarnished. His name is tarnished. And on the flip side of that, we've seen it where, you know what, somebody that has done something wrong and completely wrong, but it's dragged out over the course of 5 years. And by the time it's dragged out, they get time served and now they're out, you know, the next day. So it can go both sides. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't necessarily think the fix is to say we need to speed things up. What are your thoughts, AJ?
There are, Billy, there are major departments. I shouldn't even say major. There are departments across the nation that are using their social media platforms. Some are even starting podcasts now. Like, I know the division of police that I work for, they're looking at starting a podcast. And it's to control the narrative because they're tired of, you know, we'll take, let me think how to say this. You know, we got to be careful on this podcast because let's just say that an officer is involved in a use of force. There's a video of the use of force. It goes viral. Instead of the Twitters and the Instagrams and the Facebooks of the world controlling the narrative, i.e. some teenager watching the video, 5-second video, and typing "this cop's racist" and then putting it on Twitter or Instagram, and since they have 5 million followers, all 5 million of their followers think that police officer's racist. What they're doing is they're hopping on their podcasts now, the departments, or they're hopping on their social media pages, and they're pumping out certain information. So maybe they go, well, the officer responded to this call, and the suspect did this, and this is our policy that allows officers to use force. Now make up your mind. So a lot of departments are kind of getting with the times per se to kind of pump that stuff out there. But I also agree with Ryan. The more that you get out there and you start to put stuff out, the worse it's going to look for you because it gives the defendant or the victim, whichever, more time to use that as ammunition, right? So like if they put out information like, well, he responded to this run. Oh, well, do you always respond to this run like this? That type of deal. So it is a balancing act and a tricky one at that, a very tricky one at that.
It's a slippery slope. And then, you know, you talk about, you know, the detriment to officers when they use force. Is like, let's say when you use force on somebody and you're in an internal investigation. Well, a lot of times if you're in an internal investigation, you can't get promoted. You might not be able to go to a special assignment. So you're on freeze for as long as this internal investigation is open. So on that side of things, yeah, it would be nice from an internal standpoint to kind of speed up some of these investigations. So that way, you know, you can apply to do certain things. But until that investigation is over, a lot of times they're not going to allow you to. But then again, let's use this situation as a shooting though. Like, say you're involved in an officer-involved shooting. Let's say it was completely justified shooting. Let's say you went up on somebody and somebody had a gun on their lap. They reached for the gun. They started to point the gun. You shoot them and kill them. Let's say it was completely justified on all accounts. that situation in and of itself will still be about a year to 2 years of investigation from a criminal standpoint. So the department cannot close their internal investigation until that the DA or the district attorney, whatever you want to call it, has rendered some type of filing to say, hey, this is a clean shoot. So you have an officer now on hiatus for about a year and a half, 2 years before he can actually really do anything else until it's come out and said that this is a clean shoot. Now, again, I can't speak for every single department because I don't know every single department, but one of the conversations that AJ and I were having before we got on today is the vast differences between departments to departments. And that's another element in it. Like, one of the things that I've been blessed with the fact of doing is going out and traveling to speaking and talking to different departments from coast to coast. Like, it's been very, very cool. I've met some phenomenal people out there, some really just good-hearted people. Yep. But I will tell you that policing here is way different than policing on the East Coast, or policing on the East Coast is way different from policing in the Midwest. And yet the sad thing is that we're all judged as if we are all one. And so, like, I may have so much more training than the officer, and let's just call it, I don't know, South Carolina. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that as an actual example. But let's just say I have way more training than an officer in South Carolina. An officer in South Carolina goes out there and does something that he shouldn't be doing, but yet now I'm painted with the same exact brush that officer in South Carolina is painted with. It's not fair, but again, what my mom and dad always told me when I was younger, life ain't fair. So as officers, we can't get our panties in a bunch and be like, oh, it's not fair that they're judging me based on his actions, because it's just kind of the reality of it. Life ain't fair, but we do need to let the people know and educate them and say that, yeah, policing is not the same. And the reality of it is we can't paint a broad brush over the whole profession of law enforcement. It just ain't right.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said before we started recording, I've always come from the mindset, and keep in mind, like, I've had the absolute honor and privilege of speaking to officers across the world. So I've always been in the mindset that there are four different tiers of policing, and there are different types of policing. You have like the super small departments, right? And I used to work for a super small department. And just to give you an example of what a department might look like, that's that size is, say, every year when it's time to get a raise or a bonus or whatever, there's envelopes passed out with cash in them. And if the mayor doesn't like you, guess who doesn't get an envelope? That's real. That's real. That
reminded me of that scene from Napoleon Dynamite, bro, where they're out there like, have you seen Napoleon Dynamite?
It's been years, yeah.
When they're out there like milking the cows or whatever, and like it's lunchtime, and he gives them like all these little pennies for doing their work.
But that's real. That's real. There are police agencies out there all across the world. That's how they operate. That's how it operates. If you don't have a union or a lodge or whatever to represent you, then good luck. The next tier would be smaller departments, but they're suburbs, right? So suburbs of like major cities. Then the next would be major cities. And then the next would be like big cities. We're talking LAPD, New York, Chicago, Cleveland, places like that, right? And it has been my personal experience that they police different. And you have to keep in mind that they police different for a reason, right? The clientele is different. The type of runs are different. The run volume is different. The training is different. There's so many things that are factored into that. But you might have an officer who is fresh out the academy, super wet behind the ears, who've had zero life experience, that goes to a super small department. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but say they graduated from a super small police academy. They weren't trained up on everything properly. This officer goes out, he's involved in a deadly force situation that looks bad on camera. Now, all of a sudden, all the rest of the officers across the world are judged by this one officer's actions. It's like, well, hold on. I went through 6 years of rigorous training. We do, train up every 3 to 4 months. I'm in a classroom, I'm taking online training, and not every agency out there has those opportunities. So you're absolutely right that you can't put us all in one box, for a lack of better terms.
And it's just wild, man. Like, it's just really wild to see, like, the fact of how different it is. And some of these small agencies, you're talking about 5 to 10 officers, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so
maybe.
and the reason why I tied these two things together today, the internal stresses and the stresses of utilizing force on somebody and the aftermath of that, is because they're all lumped together. Like, if we did a survey, and I know they've done surveys like this, but if you did a survey and asked officers what they're more afraid of, I would guarantee you that majority of officers are not necessarily afraid of dying in the line of duty. More officers are afraid of, like AJ was saying, getting fired or getting blackballed for whatever reason because they did something wrong. Like, so those internal stresses are real. And it's not like it just happens to people that are at the bottom of the totem pole. Like, because you got to realize, like, all your police chiefs, all your captains, everybody, they were all once at the bottom of the totem pole. So they all have experienced it. Like, those internal stresses are real. And like I say, I understand why those things are in place for us. So that way, it could keep the city safe. It could keep me safe. But at the end of the day, there are officers out there that feel like they're a number to their department. They're just a number. Thank God I work at a department where I don't feel like I'm a number. Like, when I show up to work every single day, the people I'm with, they know my name. It feels like a family. It also feels like a small family sometimes. Yeah. But, they know my name. But there are police officers out there right now that feel like numbers at their agencies. So it's important for police departments, if you are at the top, to not make your employees feel like a number. I mean, and that goes with any profession, though. I mean, the more you make your departments or your employees feel like they're not just a number, the better you're going to, the better, the better product you're going to get from them, the better their attitudes are going to be. And so that's just my encouragement to anybody that listens to this podcast is, and you don't have to be at the top of the department to make your partners feel, or your employees feel like they're not a number. Like, if your partners, like, I know right now I work on a team right now, a shift that it's every single time I start a new rotation, it's always my goal that when I show up to work, we're all going to have fun. Because for me, if we can have fun, it gets rid of some of those situations, that cloud hanging over you of all the things that you have to get done. If you don't get it done, you're going to get in trouble. Like, yeah, I'm still going to make sure those things get done, but I like to have fun. So, like, we'll meet up, we'll talk. It was funny, like last night, so we're sitting in the parking lot of a hospital, just like a hospital, parking lot that we usually chill at. And I can hear, like, there's houses that butt up to this parking lot. And so as I'm chilling there, I can hear, like, there's a family having, like, a party or something like that, breaking all social distancing violations, but that's a story for a different day. So they're, like, doing a karaoke. I'm listening to, like, karaoke and everything like that. And so, like, they're all singing. Me and my buddy are just laughing. So I was like, hey, bro, watch this. So I pull up behind the wall because I'm on the other side of the wall, so they don't know that there's officers over there. So I get on my PA and I start singing some of the karaoke songs. And so, like, it's loud. So, like, the whole neighborhood can hear it. And you could just hear, like, them pause for a second. They're like, what is that? And then I, like, flash my lights, and so it's dark outside, so you can see all the lights. Yeah. And so, like, a couple minutes later, you can see them peek over the wall, and they start talking to us. The next thing I know, they brought us, like, tacos over. They're like, hey, man, like, here's some tacos and some candy and stuff like that, man. And so I went over, and I actually recognized one of the ladies. So I'm talking to them for, like, 10, 15 minutes. But the reason I bring that up is because I like to have fun at work. And so, I'm a solutions guy, and, I talk about all the struggles and things that we face with on a daily basis as police officers. Well, how do we get beyond that? For me, I find fun in the work that I do still. I find fun in connecting with the public. I find fun in community policing. I find fun in dancing and things like that. That's what breaks up the monotony for me when it comes to doing this job. So what are some things that you do, AJ, to kind of break up that monotony, to break up some of the stresses that you have when it comes to our profession?
Man, I mean, first off, I don't think I'm wired right, man. Like, I don't really let too much bother me, but that's a whole other episode. We need a couch I can lay down on and kick my feet up on, and, where I can get this Dr. Phil on. But I'm a firm believer you have to have fun in every aspect of your life. Like, you have to. Like, you can't hate one aspect of your life and, like, it not affect, like, all the rest of what you're doing, right? Like, and I want you to think about this for anybody out there, really. How many times have you had a bad day? at work, for instance. Like say you work first shift. How many times have you had a bad day at work and then you went home and it messed your whole day up at home, right? Or vice versa, right? Like you had a bad day, you got in an argument with your spouse or your kid is getting on your nerves, and then you go to work and then you have a bad day at work. Like you have to have fun. And don't get me wrong. Like I'm a realist and I know I pump nothing but positivity out there, and I would be a bold-faced lie if I told you I don't have my down days. But for the most part, I'm trying to find positivity in every aspect of my life. Every single aspect of my life. When my mom FaceTimed me earlier, when I opened up to y'all about, her losing like 70% of her retirement, when I asked her how much she had in there, and the number shook me to the core. I said, well, thank God for that, Mom. Thank God we got something in there, right? Like thank God we have each other, right? Like thank God you have me and I have you, right? Thank God you got food in the refrigerator. And like, I'm just a firm believer you have to find positivity, and it's everywhere. Like if you work in the inner city and you're like, oh, things are so bad, or if you work in a suburb, or if you work for a sergeant or a supervisor that's like nagging you, thank God you got a job. Thank God you getting paid, right? Like, and that has to be your mindset. Like go out there, make a difference, find something you love, find a way to get paid for it, and you'll never work a day in your life. Like that's my theory behind everything, but more specifically policing. I truly feel like I was called to be a police officer. Like I feel like it was a true calling on my life. Like the people who came into my life and kind of guided me in that direction, I feel like were heaven sent. So it's easy for me to go out there and just dance, pull up the barbecues, hop on the PA system. I'll never forget the first summer I was a police officer where I work now. I put up to a barbecue, and they were just kind of like all sitting there, like looking around, waiting for the food to cook. And I'm like, I ain't never seen a barbecue like this. Ain't nobody dancing. So I turned on the cha-cha slide over my PA system, and you'd have thought I was a DJ. I mean, they all stood up. They busted out into the cha-cha slide. I probably played 4 or 5 songs, like line dancing songs, a Cupid Shuffle, all of that. And I came out afterwards. They gave me some barbecue. I'm sitting down with them now, eating some barbecue all by myself in uniform. I don't know anybody here. And I go, why wasn't y'all dancing or anything before? And they're like, our stupid uncle forgot the speaker, so we got to sit here in silence or listen to a cell phone speaker, which ain't loud enough. And I'm like, oh, I got y'all. I'm like, what y'all want to hear next? We keeping this party going. So, yeah, that's exactly it. And then just to go back a little bit, when we were talking about rules and how a police officer could get into trouble for cussing or whatnot, I want to run this hypothetical by all of our listeners out there. If AJ, me being a police officer, I'm at work, okay, and I'm on a road and the speed limit is 35 miles per hour and the car goes flying by me 45, 50 miles per hour. Boom, right by me. Seen me a mile away, didn't care, flew by me. I flip around, I turn the lights on, I light the car up, I walk up to the window. In the passenger seat of the car is a pregnant female going into labor. Do you think I should give that person a ticket? Do you think I should give that person a ticket? I'm not, because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not giving that person a ticket.
I'm not giving that person a ticket.
I'm not giving that person a ticket.
Them.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you. And the reason I asked that hypothetical is we have to understand the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, right?
Yep.
Like the letter of the law says, hey, you broke the law. The spirit of the law says, you got a pretty good reason for doing what you're doing right now, right? But for some reason, when it comes to police officers, we forget that. That. So there are people out there who will go, well, it's a rule. You're not supposed to cuss at people. Yeah, but me telling this guy to drop the effing gun might have resonated in his head that I'm serious and not playing no games, and made him drop the gun and ultimately saved his life. So we have to keep that in mind. Like we can't automatically go, well, show us some grace. Like I had a reason for doing what I'm doing and expect us to have some grace. And then we're not shown grace back, right? Like you have to understand there's always a letter and there's always a spirit of the law.
Well, it's funny. That's what I've always, from day one, when I got into law enforcement, I would talk about, my spirituality and how it just ties into law enforcement. Because as a Christian, you have grace and mercy. Like, we all sin. Like every single one of us sin every single day. And God can render punishment to us. And sometimes he does. But there's also that simple fact of a lot of times he extends grace and mercy to us. The mercy is him not doing what he should do to me because he has that level of grace for me. You know what I mean? And so as officers, it's almost that same thing as like, I should give you a ticket, but yet I'm not, because even though this is what you may deserve, I still believe that I have a level of grace for you and think that you can correct it next time. So there's ways to find ways to break up, just the negativity from being, in this job for a long time, because a lot of officers has been proven, get cynical over time. And it's easy to get into that rut. Like, it is very easy to get into that cynical rut. Like, you go on negative things like all the time. I was on, negative things last week, and it's just like over and over and over again. But I really wanted to stress the fact on this podcast episode today that police officers are getting in trouble. Police officers are going to jail. Just because you don't hear about it in the news media does not mean it doesn't happen. All you need to do is go on Google right now and type in police officer goes to jail, and you will find multiple articles on it that I'm sure you never saw hit the 5 o'clock news.
Yeah,
that's the reality of it. If you went on to Google right now, you would see so many articles of police officers going to jail, police officers getting in trouble, that never hit the 5 o'clock news. But you know what's funny is, as many articles as you may find still probably don't even add up to 1% of the amount of officers that are getting into trouble.
Yep.
That's the crazy thing is. And so as we're led to believe that 90% of officers are out there corrupt doing all these different things, or some might say, well, yeah, 90% of officers are good, but 10% are bad. No, the number is even way smaller than that. And the things that we're getting in trouble for is not, a lot of it is not necessarily getting in trouble because of moral, ethical reasons. It's just because we didn't make a right decision. We're still human beings. Now, again, I want you guys to remember, I preface this podcast by saying that there are some officers that shouldn't be cops, that are morally and ethically wrong on all accounts. I'm not defending those guys by any means. And I've gone out before and called out some of those bad people. But I want to tell you guys that number is way less than what we're led to believe. And two, a lot of times when officers get in trouble, it's not because they're bad people. It's just because we make bad decisions like any other human being would. So,
I agree, brother. I 100% agree. But on a much lighter, way funnier, even more entertaining note, let's get into these social media meanies.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's transition. Where we at on time, Billy?
108.
Oh yeah, let's get into it, man. Let's do it.
Social media meanies? That's
social. What's that?
I love that name. I never heard that till right now.
I just made it up. So
I like that.
Copywritten, don't copy me, all right?
Social media meanies.
Here's today's episode of Social Media Meanies comes from Twitter at Vookatos, Vookatos. If you want to follow your boy and give him a
his
shout
name,
out.
Call him out. Say his name.
And he says, this is a direct message. Hey, just gonna let you know that you're a real piece of bloop, just like many of your colleagues. Wish hell existed specifically for bastards like you.
Whoa.
And the government, the boots of which seem so tasty for you.
Wow.
Shout out to you, my brother.
Thank you so much. I needed that encouragement today.
What a blessing. What a blessing that guy is.
I needed that ray of light. Thank you for blessing me, brother. I hope you have a blessed day. And I hope you gain some new followers. And maybe some new messages. I don't know,
Have you seen that episode of the Chappelle Show with the player hater ball?
Yes, bro.
hate.
Oh, yeah.
But if you guys ain't seen that episode, you guys got to see that episode.
On a real note, though, I want everybody to realize what we just did. He said a very mean, hurtful thing. I could have took it one of two ways. I could have harped on it and I didn't even reply to it. I didn't even read it until I was just searching for some entertaining to put on here. But I chose not to. I chose to read it, laugh about it, and go on about my day. So life.
So there's a lesson for you guys. If you guys want to know how to get over some of the people that are, trying to bring you down and things like that, just like that. Take it in stride. My dad, I've said this before, I'll say it again. My dad would always say, if people aren't saying something about you, you're probably not doing something right. So, you know what I mean? Just take it in stride. That's what I do. I mean, there's always going to be people out there that are hating on you. So, Billy, you got anything closing remarks, bro?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, how much I respect you guys for what you do, because Ryan calls me a lot after work. And he'll be like, "How was your day, man?" I'm like, "Oh, I was editing a wedding like all day, you know, because weddings take a long time to edit." He's like, "Oh man, yeah, I had a dead body call, and and this lady pulled a knife on me." Like, this are real conversations. Me and Ryan, I'm like, "That was your day today? Like that happened to you?" I was like in my room on my computer, but yeah, I just respect you guys a lot, and anyone going into law enforcement, just know you got a lot of stuff coming your way, but there's people there to support you.
That's real stuff, man. It's true, man. I'll call Billy all the time, and it's funny. I think the funniest thing about it is like how casual I am when I'm talking to him. Like, "Oh yeah, man, I had a lady pull a knife out on me."
Yeah, he does say like, "Oh, some guy tackled me and I had to like fight him." I don't know.
No. Nobody tackled me. I was doing the tackling.
Hey. Oh, no, I already shared it. I was about to say, I've been punched in the face by a dude with one arm before, so I ain't.
Bro, we had an officer. We had a true story, bro. I'll end on this. We had an officer. This is hilarious, bro. He was in training, and he's a good friend of mine. But there was a guy in a wheelchair that was like, just being like all like crazy with them, like super combative, like verbally combative with them. Dog, my man, like was talking to the officer, like, "Oh, what now? My man leaped out the wheelchair, bro, and swung on him, bro. Like he had like his legs were amputated. Dog, my man like leaped like a spider monkey, bro, and said, "What?"
You gotta give it to me. Some fighting him,
bro. Yeah. But my thing is like, how do you even like? How does the report read on that? Like,
I mean,
I just put tips on this dude that this amputee.
Yeah, there's times where you just gotta chalk it up.
Like, I know it was
like,
funny,
you caught me slipping, bro. Like, you got me.
Man, that was hilarious. I saw the video, bro. It was hilarious. But yeah, man, that's the reality of our life, man, or our job, man. We can go like today. As soon as we get done recording this podcast, I'm gonna go work out in the gym. Before I start working, I'll be working. Oh, you laughing because I said I'm gonna go work out in the gym? What you laughing at?
It was just so weird. Like, that was like weirdly specific. I'm gonna go work out in the gym. And
whatever. Y'all know what I mean.
Like opposed to going to McDonald's. Like, I'm gonna work out at McDonald's.
At least somebody's over here getting swole while everybody's on quarantine.
Yeah, because I'm over here.
I know. I see
best,
you. AJ over there shriveling up. So
man.
But so yeah, I'm gonna go work out. And right after I go work out, I'm gonna go work a 10-hour shift. So it's not like I'm at home chilling on the couch. So shout out to all the other first responders. I see somebody in our podcast group actually said yesterday, and I don't know, did you mention a name, an officer down of Ben Jenkins?
Yep. Yeah.
So one of the shout out to our new follower. He said, "Hey guys, I'm pretty new to this page, and even though I'm a firefighter, we still are in the same fight. And on the same team," which you're absolutely right. So I wanted to take a second to recognize and honor one of my local brothers in blue, Sergeant Ben Jenkins, who was killed in the line of duty on March 27, 2020 on a traffic stop just outside of Ely, Nevada in White Pine County. He served 12 years with Nevada Highway Patrol along with both the Army and Air National Guards, as well as Nevada Fire Marshals. Our hearts are heavy with grief for his agency, his family, and our communities. So you guys can see even the people in our group, like some of these officers that we're mentioning that have fallen are directly related to people that are subscribed to this podcast. So let us know if you are an active subscriber to our podcast and you have been affected by one of these officer downs. Please reach out to us so that way we can reach out to the family and friends of those officers. And I do know where Ely, Nevada is at. When I was played at UNLV, we would actually go and train up in Ely, and there's like, that town is like so small, man. I hated Ely, Nevada, but anyways, I know exactly where Ely is at. So heart is out to you, and shout out to you, firefighter Zoller, I don't know how to pronounce that, for becoming a new member of our podcast group on Facebook. So,
and if you ain't on Facebook, you need to hop on Facebook and get in that group, because it's rowdy. It's getting good.
It is getting good, guys. It is getting good. We go up every single day. So let's get our subscribers up on Facebook. We know we have at least 100,000 people out there that can join this group, because we got over 100,000 downloads. So so anyways, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you. Got any closing words, AJ? Or did you hit them all?
Just find something positive to do today. Find something positive to do today. There's enough negativity out there in the world, like whether it's going outside, going for a walk, listening to your favorite song and dancing around the living room by yourself. Like, find something positive to do today and then reflect. Take some time to reflect as soon as you're done doing whatever that is. it'll make a difference.
If you guys need help, go on Instagram, follow D Nice. He's a DJ. He's been DJing every single day of quarantine. It's been some really, really good music. If you are into Christian music, follow my man Anthony Evans. Man, if you want to hear some good music, follow him. He did a concert from his kitchen yesterday. There's a lot of people, a lot of celebrities and musicians out there, sharing their talent for free from the comfort of their own home. So go out there and listen. But hey, we love you guys. I love doing this podcast every single week. If you guys have content you guys want to hear, just reach out to us. We're going to get to those topics that we mentioned on Facebook last week. But without further ado, we love you guys. We'll see y'all next week.
Peace.